Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. I want to take a look at the different tier lists that are currently available and some of the stats from the last week of Shadowverse. This is something I want to become hopefully a regular thing or semi-regular thing that we can do at least once a month or once every few weeks. So taking a look at, first we'll look at the Mana Surge tier list, which all the tier lists will be in the description. This is the latest updated one, so this is August 14th, 2017. All these deck lists will be taken from around that period. The other two are the 11th, so they're a little bit out compared to when the stats were released. But this so far encompasses most of what ladder is. Mid Shadow, Neutral Rune, Aggro Blood, and Vengeance Blood, all being tier 1, which I can pretty much agree with. These are the most common decks you'll probably see. Neutral Rune has definitely seen a surge as of late. There are a couple different variations of Neutral Rune, but the one that I've probably seen the most is a Wallet type rune, which is heavy on the late game and a neutral early game. Similar how Blood was using Abyss, but for a rune deck. Mid Shadow has a couple different variants as well, nothing too crazy. If you're looking for these, you'll find the decks for each tier list on the tier list, so you can check those out. I don't see the need to open too much up because most of these are pretty straightforward. We'll just open one to show you guys. So as you can see, just a pretty standard deck list. Most of them are very similar with a couple different number changes here and there, and maybe one or two different followers, but not the main core of the deck. The main cores are pretty much identical. So Mid Shadow being number 1, and Aggro Blood and Neutral Rune. Neutral Rune at the moment, as you'll see when we go to look at the stats, is sitting in probably the lower end of the tier with Vengeance Blood, and that's sitting pretty close, and Aggro and Mid taking it pretty quickly. But I'm sure as the weeks go on, we'll see a complete flip, and we'll probably see Mid and Vengeance stay there. Aggro may drop out, and Neutral Rune, I'm not sure about how it will sit by the end of next week, but we'll just wait and see. As for Tier 2, Tier 2 is always clogged with different decks. That's usually how a tier system is. Tier 1 is your top tier, basically meta decks. Tier 2 is kind of the obscure decks that still do alright, normally, or ones that just can't quite keep up with those top tier decks. As you probably noticed, this video is going to be mostly opinionated, so please don't get too butthurt about things, but this one's got the mid-range Dirt Rune, which I can completely agree with, Ramp Dragon, and Aggro Sword, which is, yeah, Aggro Sword. Aegis Haven, which is usually used as a counter deck to the top decks, which is why it usually sits in tier 2 and not tier 1. Neutral Sword, pretty expected. 2478 Shadow. I'm not 100% what that deck is, but obviously it is a control shadow and a NEP deck, so I'd take it that's basically the idea. Neutral Blood still sitting in tier 2. I'm not sure I'd completely agree with that. I might drop that back into tier 3 personally, and of course Stormhaven, and then we get into the really lesser known sort of deck ranges. So, you know, D-Shift, depending on the player, like I don't know if I'd completely agree. I may put that in tier 2, but it is at the higher end, and it has been dropped down from tier 2 by the looks of that. A lot of these decks have dropped out from tier 2, while a couple have gone up, like Control Blood has gone up into tier 3. Mind you, I would nearly put that in tier 2 myself. A lot of these decks are a bit iffy, and it becomes mostly personal opinion, which is what deck lists, well, tier lists pretty much are. They're a reflection of the meta, while also some personal opinion decks. And then other decks, you know, Mid-Range Blood, Storm Ramp, Ginger Rune, and Queen Shift. Very lesser known decks, not really used as much. Storm Ramp obviously being the more popular of those. So that's pretty much Mana Surge's list. Most of the deck lists follow the same tune, so we'll take a look at the Game Press one next. One of the other deck lists I use pretty regularly. I like to use all three of these a lot, so that's not too uncommon. But this one, top, obviously Mid-Range Shadow. This is from the 11th of August, so it is a little bit behind, which is why it doesn't include Neutral Rune, and I'm guessing Vengeance as top. But I'm sure we'll get an update soon to this list. So we've got the Aggro Blood, and of course, like I said, the Mid Shadow. The Mid Shadow, I even looked at the deck list earlier. It's very similar to the Wonderland Dreams set from Mana Surge, and the Aggro Bloods are all very much the same. If you use the combination of deck lists, you'll soon realize. So tier S, so S plus is basically tier 1. This is kind of the tier 2 or 2.5 area, I would say. So Ramp Dragon, Neutral, Aegis, Earth Rune, Vengeance Blood, which is the one that's a little different to the other list. Obviously, data makes a difference, so since Mana Surge is updated earlier, this one's not quite. But I could see that going up soon. And then, obviously, Rank A, which is kind of your tier 3 set. Very similar all the way through. Nothing too much different, I would say. They're mostly the same, so nothing too surprising. Basically just showing us that Shadow and Aggro are both some of the top decks right now. And GameAI, a Japanese tier site, deck site, Shadowverse news site, basically the same as GamePress but Japanese version. Slightly different. This one's updated on the 11th as well, but they do include Vengeance Blood in their tier 1 tier, but no neutral rune yet. That is in the tier 2 section. And that is PTP Elf, which is the one I've been doing recently, which I should have a video for soon. And basically everything else that we've covered for the most part. I mean, I guess neutral, which you can pretty much tell what they are by looking at the side here, but for the most part they're fairly similar to the other deck lists, and this was, like I said, updated on the 11th as well, so a little bit behind. I mean, like I said, we'll expect an update hopefully soon with some changes, and the tier 4 is not too exciting. These guys do have some stats of their own, but I much prefer looking at Shadow Log when I'm looking for stats, even though they aren't going to be 100% accurate as well. So we'll take a look at Shadow Log. I'll zoom in a little bit here for you guys. So I'm specifically looking at the Master. All ranks is a little iffy just because of the A and B rank stuff, but Master's a good spot to look if you're looking for the meta analysis. So we've got Blood as the top tier class, 25% usage rate, fairly high for a usage rate. You know, a quarter of the players are using Blood as one of their main decks, and with a win rate of 52%. That's pretty average, I guess. You want them floating around the 50% mark for your decks. If you can get above, that's good. Obviously the first win percentages for both Shadow and Blood are both quite high, with Shadow just edging them out for the win rate in the first place, but Blood does have second locked in against Shadow, and I think Blood is the second highest win rate for going second, which is pretty crazy, with only neutral, well, Rune in general, beating them out. So this is the whole look. So we've got the top 3, which is what all the tier lists have shown us, you know, Blood, Shadow, Rune, pretty normal. Then, you know, your lesser couple of decks, Dragon and Sword, still doing well, keeping up to that 50% margin. And then the Haven at 46%. A little low, but Haven is used as a counter deck, and a lot of players don't seem to be a fan of using Haven right now. I personally don't mind it. There's lots of different variations you can try. Still not the most successful, and it's got quite a low usage rate, which probably contributes to its low win percentage. And then Elf, 6.3% usage rate, 44% win rate. Very low. Like I said, usage rate probably plays into that, along with just the fact that they haven't really got much in the last couple expansions to do anything crazy. So these are the individual deck breakdowns. So we've got the deck type used, the number of uses, number of victories, win percentage, first percentage, and going second percentage. Aggro Vampire taking one of the top spots here with a massive amount of use and a good amount of victories overall. So 52% win rate, 58 first, then mid Necro, 53 win rate, 60 first. Then we've got some Ramp Dragon stuff, but mainly we're looking for these orange ones that are above 50%. So Vengeance, that's why these 3 are the top 3 at the moment, I think, with Neutral Rune also slotting in there as not probably the 4th. Mainly because they all have really high win rates. Neutral Rune's actually going pretty crazy at the moment with 56%, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a huge spike in that being played on ladder. Something to definitely look forward to and try and come up with counters to verse. Other than that, we've got the Neutral Royal. Vampire just in general, that's not really that handy to know. Nep, Shadow, 51% as well. Last Word, which is pretty much a Nep, 52. Aggro Necros at 54. There's nothing too crazy after that. But anything over 50% is usually pretty good. I don't know if these supply deck lists, and I'm not sure what these Japanese ones are listed as, just because they don't translate very well. Oh no, there we go, they did translate, it just took them a moment. So there's just a heap of decks here that you can check out. Most of the percentages, Satan Dragon, 55%, but usage rate doesn't help. So you're mainly looking at the top ones for number of uses to get a good sample size, and then work from there with what you're looking at. But overall, you're safe to go with an Aggro Vampire, Vengeance Vampire, the mid-range Necros, and the Neutral Witches, which are basically 2 Blood decks, 1 Shadow deck, and Rune for your top 4. Basically what Mana has put as their tier list, I'm guessing they've used this because this was from 7th of August to the 13th of August, so I'm guessing that's what Mana Surge has based their tier list on for the most part, looking at those results with, you know, mid-range, neutral, and aggro. If they didn't, then they got a really crazy amount of, you know, well, not just guesswork, but testing to show that that's what it ended up as. But if you are looking for any of these links, I will have them in the description below. We may come back to another video like this soon, hopefully, if things get changed in the next couple of weeks. I'll do another one. If you guys enjoy it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.